Hi everyone, welcome to Simble Things, the channel where I talk about living with C-PTSD and everything that goes along with that, right? Today's episode, talk about something that might touch on a few people's kind of sensitive places, right? So I want to talk about how trauma can lead to conspiracy theories. Yeah. Conspiracy theories, you know, the ones, flat earth and chemtrails and all other like kind of stuff like that, right? So you've got to think about how when people have been through trauma, have C-PTSD, we're very vulnerable, like especially mentally, very vulnerable, and often we've been abused by people that we're supposed to trust and supposed to like hold in high regard and everything. So like that kind of thing, that can put you in a really awkward place mentally, right? It's hard to trust anything at certain points because even if you had parents or whatever that did abuse you, they may have like told you some actual good stuff, and it might not have been all abuse all the time, right? And they may have been the type of parents that abuse but then also try to be good parents or whatever, or try and relate, try and teach and be like good, right? And often that fails. And when you've got such mixed kind of experiences from a person, so yeah, they might have abused you, but then they might have also tell you stuff that's supposed to help you in life or whatever, right? Like, how can you trust anything they say because they're the ones that abused you, right? Being abused, especially by people in any kind of authority, you know, parents, guardians, other family members, teachers, or you know, those kind of people, right? Anybody in that situation that abuses you, they'll have also have taught you things, right? And you'll have learned things from them, and it puts your head in a really weird place, right? Because you don't know what to trust, you don't know how to think about these situations, and it's hard. It's hard to know exactly what to think, what to believe. And when you're in that kind of headspace, you can believe all kinds of stuff. I know when I was much younger, I went through phases of disregarding lots of stuff and just going, oh no, that's all like rubbish, no, I don't believe that, and believing all kinds of stuff. And you know, over the years, I kind of sorted things out and got myself into a better place mentally. So now I'm like fairly together and not so easily fooled by a lot of conspiracy theories. You know, I'm the type of person that'll go and research things, right? So what did I do today? Oh, we got the old lappy toppy, and we have, I'm going to put it on the screens, Des. So we've got an article on Science Daily. So this came from a research study from the University of Kent. It was by Ricky Green and Karen M. Douglas. Anxious attachment and belief in conspiracy theories. Interesting, right? I'm just going to read a few extracts from this article. It says, belief in conspiracy theories stems in part from negative early childhood experiences with caregivers, new research has shown. In two studies, Ricky Green and Professor Karen Douglas of the University of Kent School of Psychology found that participants with what is termed anxious attachment style were more likely to believe in conspiracy theories. An anxious attachment style is formed in childhood when a caregiver is inconsistently available, Once formed, this attachment style perseveres in adulthood, where it colours many aspects of people's lives, such as their friendships and attitudes. When a caregiver is like inconsistent or whatever, so I feel like if the caregiver is abusive rather than just being inconsistent, that's just even worse, right? And that's just going to cause an even bigger effect. So it's interesting, the research found that participants with anxious attachment style not only believed in general notions of conspiracy, but also specific established conspiracy theories. So what's the big one at the moment, right? I mean, is it still the big one? I don't know, I can't keep up with these things, but flat Earth, right? There's about a bazillion other things there with flat Earth. And it's really hilarious that people talking about flat Earth are using mobile phones, cellular phones that rely on satellites, and they claim the Earth is flat. But that's another thing. What the interesting thing is, well, it's not, it is interesting, but not like good interesting. It's the way in which, it's all these different ways in which like the trauma from abuse can manifest itself and affect us in the rest of our daily lives. Like all this stuff that may have happened 20, 30 years ago maybe, still affects us every day of our lives. And you know, this is one of the reasons why C-PTSD is so difficult, why it is so complex, right? Because this is what we have to live with day after day, and it gets into our lives in so many different ways that we don't even realize. And it's really interesting because I'd been thinking about this topic for a while, like that I was going to do a video on it, because I've seen it a lot. I have seen it where people in different kind of vulnerable places do end up believing a lot of falsehoods and like conspiracy theories, because things are so unsettled to start with that it can be really hard to know who and what to trust. And it's difficult. It is super difficult. So I totally understand why it happens. But I thought it was extra interesting that when I started like Googling around this subject, that I found this study, and I'll pop a link to it down below, of course, as always, right? So clearly other people have been thinking, have observed this phenomenon and wanted to, you know, put more time into it. Ricky Green and Professor Karen Douglas. I mean, because here's the thing, with people that research this stuff, the idea doesn't come from nowhere, does it? Like, you don't pick things to study at random. You pick things to study that have caught your interest in some way. Like, because if you haven't got an interest in this subject, then you wouldn't spend the time researching and writing a paper about it. I guess what I want to talk about now is, how do you combat it? Now that's as always, right? That's the more difficult bit. It's like, how do you deal with that, right? And because the problem is, there is a lot of sketchy stuff that's happened in general in the world that has occasionally been written off of as conspiracy theories, and they're not. Things like the Tuskegee Experiments, how the CIA used money from cocaine to get rid of the democratic government in Iran, like all these things, like we all just thought, well, they were espoused as being conspiracy theories, but now, you know, we have actual evidence of it. You know, there's evidence from the CIA in papers that have been released that the whole Iran Contra affair, you can go check that out, and there's papers, evidence released now that showed that was a true thing and it wasn't a conspiracy. When you can like have a conversation with somebody that is into conspiracy theories, if they're quite knowledgeable, they might be able to say, okay, yeah, you say not, but what about that thing and what about that thing? And sometimes it's hard to answer that, right? Because there are things that we call conspiracies that have been proved to be true. So how do you combat it? And do you? Like, do you let it go? Or if you think you might be falling prey to it, like how do you work out and how do you kind of settle yourself into a place where you're just like, well, actually, that's kind of balls. Like, how do you like settle yourself, right? How do you get yourself into a clearer mindset? I mean, in some ways, you might have to be realistic about the fact that there's some things you can't know, because that's another reason why it's so easy to get drawn to conspiracy theories, because they seem to wrap the whole matter up like really cleanly, like all these different things. You're like, oh, but that's because of that and that's because of that. And it just seems to explain everything in a really neat way. But, you know, not everything can be explained easily. There's a lot of really complicated things, and that's the problem with a lot of conspiracy theories, where it can just seem a bit too neatly wrapped up. Like there's always an answer for something, whereas like really, there often isn't an answer for everything. Or if there is an answer, it could be super complicated, and it's not something that can just be explained in a very like simple, straightforward way. Or here's the other thing: when there can be multiple factors in why some things a certain way. I guess my main tip's going to be try and go back to basics and try and just concentrate on your immediate. Because another thing that believing in conspiracy theories, another thing it can do is it can be a really good distraction from actually trying to heal, from trying to reorder our brains and put our brains into a better state and try and heal some of the damage. Because, you know, it's hard living with C-PTSD, but you know what's harder? Actually working day after day to make it better. And it's way easier to get distracted by things like conspiracy theories and whatnot, and use that as a distraction. If you do believe in conspiracy theories, or somebody you know does, often arguing about it is kind of pointless, because somebody might just want to believe it, and the reasons they want to believe it they aren't going to be straightforward, and they're not going to be the type of things that can be combated with just evidence. So maybe you believe in flat earth or whatever, but rather than thinking about the shape of the earth, how about concentrate more on the shape of your reactions in daily life, how you manage your brain, how you try and heal, rather than looking for conspiracy theories. Why not look for therapy and like try and just heal and try and work on getting into a better place? And then, you know, maybe you can work out what shape you think the earth really is. But if you can't get on top of your day-to-day life and try and like heal and make that better, then these conspiracy theories and whatnot, it's just a distraction. But, you know, if you've been through trauma, then you're actively, you're definitely attracted to it because of, you know, the damage it does to our brains. So I think that's the main thing to focus on, rather than thinking so much about the conspiracy theories. Try and concentrate on what you can really know and touch and work out, how to make your day-to-day better, because regardless of the shape of the earth, you need to make your day-to-day life better, right? You need to try and help heal your brain and your body from the trauma you've experienced. I think that's the main bit of this video. Bit of a mixed up video, but yeah, it's all good. It's a funny subject. Tell me what you think in the comments, of course. You know how it goes. I'd love a like, share, subscribe, all that, you know. Let's try and get the word out, get more views and whatnot. So thanks for watching, everyone. You know, I really appreciate your views. And remember, you can make today better and tomorrow, and it can get better still. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. It's there if you need it. Take care. Catch you next time.